you first open Visual Studio, it may take a bit longer than at later times because there's a large number of settings that need to be configured, and it is a massive program. During the loading process, for the very first time, you may be asked to log in. When you do get asked that, you can sign into Microsoft Visual Studio using your Office 365 email. In our case, it's your ID number at myacg.org. You'll know you've signed in correctly if your name appears up here in the home screen. At this point, under New Project, we go down to select Create New Project. Now, the very first time you run this, Visual C# may be the default option. If it is, close that window and click Visual Basic. Make sure that Windows Classic Desktop is selected and then Console App in the middle here. Finally, we come down to the name field and we're going to give this something more meaningful. I'm going to call it Visual Studio Intro. I'm going to leave the default location where it's saved and press OK. Again, the first time you do this, it may take a little longer to load a project. Now, if your screen looks slightly different to mine, that's okay. There's a fairly good chance that you've got some extra panels appear on the right. These are panels that can be turned on and off, just like an Adobe program. The two that you'll probably have, amongst perhaps a couple of others, is Solution Explorer, which is a bit like Windows Explorer. You can see a list of all the files that are in your particular project. Module 1 is the code file over here. Basically, the rest of the files Visual Studio will create for us as we go. They're needed to actually run or execute our program. But I can close that one. The other window that might be there is the Properties window. This isn't really needed for what the style of programming that we're doing, called console programming. It is important, however, if you're ever getting into Windows Forms programming, where you're creating a graphical user interface using buttons, text boxes, and so on. So for now, I'm actually going to close Properties as well. Over here, we have our main window. So in this project, we're just going to create one line of text that will display something to the window. So inside submain, I'm just going to press enter a couple of times just to create a little bit of white space. Helps with readability, has no impact on our program when it runs. And what I'm going to type is console.write. Notice as I'm writing, Microsoft's IntelliSense feature pops up with a list of possible options that it thinks I might be after. What I can do is use the arrow keys to select one or the other. I can even read the little bit of documentation off to the right telling me what each option gives me. And then I can even press the tab key to actually select one of the options. It'll get easier over time as you begin to get used to typing and using the tab key, arrow key combos. After the word write, I'm going to put an open bracket, and you can see Visual Studio will put the closing bracket there for me. And then in speech marks, I'm going to type the word hello. Press enter. Then I'm going to type one more line, which will prevent the console window from closing as soon as it gets to the end of the code. In other words, immediately. So what I'm going to type is console.read key. And basically that just pauses the program until I press enter while the program's running to close the console window. To run our code, we press start up here, or we press F5 on our keyboard. Either way, the black console window should appear and run our program. As you can see, hello is over here, and when I press enter, our program stops running because there's no more code, and we're returned to the program view.